Welcome to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larziliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur Podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur Podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guests are Rick and Jacob from Dendro Technology. How you doing?
Good. Great.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody about the origin story? How'd you get started in this business?
Okay. Because it kind of starts with you.
Yeah. Well, I started out 50 years ago as a hippie carpenter and kind of made my way through the construction business into the woodworking business, and then ended up owning a woodworking shop that ended up being pretty big. I had 100 employees and 28,000 square foot of space, and we did architectural woodworking all over the Southwest region and really all over the country on a pretty large scale. Did about $10 million a year worth of business, and then I sold it, and in 2019, and I had bought a Wood-Mizer sawmill as a kind of a hobby idea, and because I'd always liked Live Edge, and George Nakashima was one of my inspirations in my early days, along with James Krenov and a guy named Wendell Castle, and those guys were, they were artist woodworkers, and they were really revolutionaries and pretty extraordinary at the time, and really got me started on this whole thing. But I got into the sort of the more precision, specified architectural kind of stuff, really for money more than anything else. And I made a lot of money, which was great. And then, so I had my sawmill here at this little house where my daughter and my son-in-law were living, and just puttering around with it in my sort of retirement. And then Jacob and his wife came home and bought the house from my son and daughter-in-law, and we started puttering around together, and we discovered that we had a business. People liked the slabs that we were making and started buying them. And that's kind of what led to this.
Yeah. And for me, I moved back here in late 2019 from Colorado. And it was like right before COVID was happening. And once COVID happened, we were kind of stuck here at the property. And that's when we really got involved with, I got really interested in cutting or milling the wood, and also, people were kind of stuck at home during that time, so I had just posted like a few slabs that we had cut, and we just started selling them. I think partly because people were doing their home projects, and yeah.
Wow, what a story! That's a great story. I mean, the fact that you had built the business for so long and then you sold it like right before the pandemic.
Yeah, that was luck.
You literally when did you buy your mill? In 2019?
No, I bought the mill in 2018 probably.
Okay.
Before the pandemic. and I
Yeah.
just really there were a couple of big sycamore trees out in front of my daughter's house, and they had to take them down because they were dead and they were in the power lines. And I said, if those trees are sound, I'm going to buy a mill and mill them up, and they were. So those were our first logs, and
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and then we found that every single person that came in to buy a slab wanted us to do something with the slab, either straight edge it or sand it or flatten it or something, and so we started doing that kind of in the driveway with whatever we had at hand, and then the demand got to the point where and people wanted us to make tables and furniture and stuff. So we built this shop, and that was 2 years ago. I think we finished the shop 1.5 years ago, and we're pretty well equipped. And I don't know if you can if we can we could even show you if you want to see it. Probably we could take this thing and walk around
Yeah,
with
walk
it.
around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to visit, like certain people's shops and do a whole series on that. Let me ask you, what do you mind kicking back to, like, you started this business, your first business before? What made you sell it?
Well, I had owned it since 2000, so 19 years, and I
Mm-hmm.
had worked in it 10 years before that, and I knew it really well. And twice during the time that I owned it, uh, I I almost lost it. I had to I uh, just circumstances, and I had to totally reinvent myself and and like dig really deep and work really hard. And uh, let's see, in 2019 I was 65, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and and I don't know what I just had a hunch. I didn't know COVID was coming, but I had a hunch that the next catastrophe was coming. Uh, and
Well, 20 years and being in the business for almost 30 years before that was kind of like you kind of got used to the cycles, right? Like
Yes,
you knew
yeah,
that we were up for a cycle.
yeah, that was my sense,
Yeah.
and I just didn't have the fire in my belly anymore to work that hard to save it, because when you're in that kind of business, in the woodworking business, especially commercial architectural woodworking, I had everything on the line. If I failed, uh, I would lose everything, my house, and everything we built. For my, I've been married for 44 years, uh, and so I just didn't have the stomach for it, and so I
Mhm.
I put it on the market, and and I got a good, I did good. So, and then sure enough, COVID showed up right after I closed the deal.
Right after. And you were doing architectural millwork for commercial spaces, like commercial build
Yeah,
outs, like
banks, hospitals, uh,
CNCs, front desks, reception
yeah, all that stuff.
areas,
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And Jacob, I'm just curious, like, while your dad was off building this, did you kind of have a sense of, like, all of the challenges that he was going through, and, like, you know,
Not necessarily. He was pretty good at not showing it, but
yeah,
he's pretty open about stuff. So I'm sure, if there's probably times where I could tell, he was stressed out or um, struggling a bit. But
yeah,
but I would say, for the most part, he was pretty good at not not showing it.
for sure,
Um,
for sure.
yeah,
And what were you doing before in Colorado before you started doing this?
me, I had a retail business up there,
Hmm.
and I had that from 2015 to 2019,
Okay.
and I kind of I was having my first child, and I had a feeling. I was like, I need to come back home. I need to be around my family,
Uh-huh.
and so I sold that, and then moved back. So I was out there for about 5 years almost, and
What kind of retail business?
I had a vape shop out there, so it was completely different. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Um, that's cool. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
yeah,
You raised a an entrepreneur who successfully exited their business and
Yeah.
yeah,
uh, got married and decided to move back home to your family. Well done,
yeah,
Rick.
yeah, and we
Well
did.
done. That's like every parent's dream. And now you get to work with your kid in
Yeah,
your in your second career.
it's pretty thrilling, I gotta say.
And it's I was always around in the shop when I was younger,
Yeah,
but for some reason it didn't interest me at the time, you know,
yeah,
and so I kind of went off and took my own path, and then kind of fell back into this, which was and I really I enjoy it. It's creative. It's artistic, and a lot of the time the wood tends to speak for itself, and that's what's so fun about even just milling a log is you never really know what's inside until you crack it open,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if you get really deep about it, to be able to have the honor of being the first one to see what's inside of a tree is probably
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the biggest gifts ever. Um, cool. So tell us about the current business makeup. Like, what's the business model? What does that look like?
So it's kind of, I mean, it's somewhat of like a what'd you say, a three-part business?
Yeah.
Um,
Three or four.
three
Yeah.
or four. So we have, yeah, it's probably three or four. So we have the sawmill where we can custom cut stuff for us and other people.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the time we'll have, you know, customers that have their own logs that want them milled, and we charge them an hourly rate for that. Um, so that's one part of it. Um, Second part, we do have a dehumidification kiln
Okay.
here, and it's just a shipping container that we converted, um, and so we can dry stuff. We can also dry stuff for other people. So that's another part of it.
Hmm.
Um, of course, selling the live edge slabs
Yeah.
to contractors or the general public,
Woodworkers.
woodworkers, anybody that comes by. And then we also have this shop. It's 3,000 square feet. We have a wide belt sander. We just got done upgrading our big. It's basically a huge router table that
Hmm.
we put a 10 horsepower CNC head on, and we can flatten maybe 4 feet
4 by 12.
by 12,
Yeah.
which is a pretty big slab.
Hmm.
Um, and so we rent time on those machines as well. So
Hmm.
that would be, I guess, classified under like milling
Yeah.
services.
Yeah.
Um, and we also get commissioned to make tables and stuff for people. But we have, not as well as the big sander, the surfacing machine. We also have a 16-inch jointer, bandsaw, 20-inch planer, which we want to get a bigger one. Um, we have a couple lathes in here. I'm trying to think what
Yeah.
else.
We
Oh,
one other leg of this stool is that we rent space to a corner of our shop to an old friend of mine who's a very very fine woodworker and much better than I ever was. And so and he brought a lot of cool equipment to the table. So he rents space from us, and he uses our stuff, and we use his stuff, and and then we collaborate on some projects because
Yeah.
he's got a really high level of skill for fine stuff, and
For sure.
so that's a real plus.
That's awesome. Tell us, how do you get the word out? Like, how do your customers find you?
what do you think? Right now, it's kind of just word of mouth is how it started. I haven't, or we haven't done a whole lot of advertising. We have an Instagram. We have a Facebook page. I would say I'm more active on Instagram than Facebook, but
Yeah.
generally it's just word of mouth. I think we could do a better job at marketing, um,
Hmm.
but
Then we might get too much work.
yeah, we might get
Well,
it's
actually,
I know, Rick, you're retired, but Jacob
yes,
still has a lot of
yeah.
yeah,
time in
Well,
to.
the thing that we really need to work on in terms of commissions and that sort of thing, we have plenty. I mean, we have just a steady uh, more than 2.5 people. We have a part-time employee who's out there making money for us right now. Uh,
That's great.
but we have, but in terms of marketing, uh, what we really need to do is get our retail, just plain slab business uh, going, so that because it would
yeah.
be
That's
really
what we
nice to
could.
have, $1,000 a day worth of slabs going out of here that we don't have to do any work on.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
because you've already front loaded that work. You've already
that
milled it, you
Yeah,
dried it.
Yeah,
It's there. It's like
yeah,
it's money standing up that you just
right,
yeah,
inventory.
and
That's
move
that's the part where we could definitely improve on,
for
and
sure, for
whether
sure.
that's uploading it, on a website, or right now, our employee is he's surfacing a big plank, and
For sure.
when you surface them, they seem to sell, but
yes,
we just didn't have the manpower to do that, all the time, and also try to make stuff for people.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, it's not too often that I talk to, uh, uh like, essentially like a woodpreneur titan as yourself, right? Like I quick Google search, Rick, that you were featured on Woodpreneur, on the Woodworking Network, and like you've accomplished a lot. Like, how are you approaching this business this time around, especially knowing that, like, yeah, you don't have the desire to have hundreds of employees and X amount of space potentially, or not, but like, do you view opportunity in business, especially with this second business, knowing what you've accomplished? Like, how are you approaching the growth? Like, what does growth look like for you in this business?
Well, uh, my goal in this business is to help my son build something that he can take and uh, and go on with. Because I'm 70 now, and I just love doing it. That I love doing the work with my hands. But you know, I got another 5 years, uh, maybe 10 if I'm lucky, before I get too tired. So
You keep
I'm
lifting and moving slabs. That's your workout. So
well,
I think
yeah.
I think
My joke is that all the other elderly retired gentlemen with white hair around here, they have to go to the gym to
yeah,
keep
yeah,
fit.
yeah.
And we're thinking about changing this whole thing into a CrossFit, where they pay us to come and do this stuff. But that's another business strategy that Jacob can handle that. Um, but no, I my goal is to build this thing uh, to the point where I can just hand it off, and uh, and so my philosophical uh, outlook is that what what I what I did with my other business was I had a really successful conventional architectural woodworking business,
Yeah,
uh, and I did my best to make it a responsible business, but kind of limited if you want to make money in that arena. You got to kind of do stuff that you got to make compromises. So in this business, and again, this is just from my point of view from the very beginning, I wanted to make it something, for example, that was carbon neutral.
mm,
And we are very close to being carbon neutral. I haven't done the math, but when we built the shop, we put a solar array on it So we generate all our own electricity, 100%,
Wow.
and including, we've got a bunch of 20, 30 horsepower motors, and it's pretty
Amazing.
impressive.
Yeah.
We we set up the kiln uh, so that it's gas fired, which is not, in, but it's really minimal use. And then we sequester all this carbon in these trees
Mhm.
and keep them from going to the landfill or getting burned uh,
That's,
and
yeah.
and uh, so that aspect of it is really important to me. And we recycle our sawdust, and we so we're without really making a big thing out of it. We're a sustainable, long-term sustainable business,
Yeah.
uh, and we contribute to our community, and we uh, do a lot of work for our friends, so those are sort of my goals because I'm late in life,
Yeah.
and I think that when I'm done, it will be a business that Jacob can take and do whatever he wants with, or just you know um, uh, take it in any direction that he wants.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And Jacob, for you, like, what do you know, seeing, having your pops as a mentor and being in this business for 5 years, like,
hmm
what do you see as the opportunity in front of you, to help grow this business?
So I have him as a mentor, which is really nice, and I also have Michael as a mentor, which is great. So I kind of, Michael's really into like very very fine woodworking and
That's
all
our
sorts of,
tenant, Michael.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my dad's been in, like, on the commercial side, and so it's good to get, um, both sides of it. Where I see this business going is it's growing. It's not growing at a super fast rate, but it's growing at a, a pretty good pace, for us. Like uh, like I said before, it was just me and my dad and Michael, and now we have an employee here to help us, and that has really helped us get projects done, a little bit quicker,
Hmm.
because they would take, woodworking. It takes time, and even with milling logs, the time it takes to dry it takes a long time.
Takes a long
So
time.
my goal is just to have fun, make money, um, and make people happy, and and if I can do that, and also grow the business at the same time, that's my goal.
That's funny. I'm looking at an interview with your dad online, and it says, "Have fun, make money, and build business" has been your motto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
and
that's always been my mantra.
and I would say every day I'm here, we have fun in some sort of way, whether it's thinking about a project that's coming up. For example, right now we just got a bunch of these. We got a job where we're doing a bunch of stair treads, and I was trying to me and Reese, who's our employee now, we're trying to figure out. We like bundled up all these stacks of wood, and we're trying to figure out how to put them, on the trailer. And the trailer that we were using was bottoming out because it was so small. And it's just, it's just stuff like that. It could be outside we're having fun, or inside in the shop when we're, making stuff. I, I enjoy it. I would say there's times where it's slow, but it's never boring. There's
Yeah,
always something to do.
there's always something to do in the shop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can make up stuff to do, because
Yeah.
there's always something to do. That's very cool. All right, so this is a part of podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. Is there anything that I could help you with, or anything that you need an extra set of eyes and ears on?
Well, um, I never did any marketing in my whole business career, because what I did instead was I I just I made myself indispensable to the local market,
Yeah.
and I built a business that nobody else had anything close, and if they had a big job, it went to me, because that's because I was the only one that could do it. So I was a big fish in a small pond, and and I'm also tech ignorant, and I don't like Facebook, and I don't like Instagram, and I don't feel comfortable with any of those things. So what I uh, would really like is to come up with some kind of uh, program to market our slabs that isn't a huge amount of work, and I would even learn to do it myself if
Or I could.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but it'd be nice for me to learn how to do it myself, because it's not quite so much heavy lifting. Um, but and also it might improve my.
But then you might have to go back to the gym.
That's true. Uh, anyway, no, I mean to come up with some kind of uh, really good, solid marketing program to sell our slabs, and uh, that's kind of my only
Yeah, I would
business
say
really.
that's probably, like I mentioned before, the part that we could do a lot better on is just marketing the actual
The
slabs,
direct sale of
direct
slabs.
sale of slabs to
Yeah.
the consumer.
So, I guess for one thing is, I mean, you definitely. So I'm like looking at your Instagram. So the one thing that I would say. So let me see if I can give you some direct feedback advice. So I have a client, and he's probably around your age. Um,
My age
yeah, Rick.
or his
Yeah,
age?
your age, Rick. And one of the things that for him it was just very hard to kind of get him to produce content, um,
Mm-hmm.
because technology or what have you. Um, but when I gave him this advice, and the same advice that I would give you, is that I would just tell stories. That's all I would do. And for you, like, don't look at it like, so I would here, this is a good example that I like to give right now. 30, 40 years ago, what was the best way for you to get the word out about your business? Do you remember what it was? What how did you get the word out?
Um, let's see, 40 years ago,
Yeah,
uh, it was just talking to people.
talking to people, exactly. But how did you talk to people? You had to have, like, what kind, you had to basically have a storefront on a main street, right?
No, uh, I may be an anomaly, but I never I never had a storefront on a main street.
But
Uh,
for
but
most businesses, you had to
yeah,
have a storefront on
sure,
Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
or
sure,
you had to get listed in the yellow pages,
right,
right?
Newspaper.
yeah,
You had to take out ads in the newspaper, and
right,
hopefully, maybe, or if you were rich, you advertised on the radio, right?
right, sure,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff.
And TV, like, you were rich if you did that, right?
Yeah,
And you had 30 seconds in order to tell your story, and then you had to, like, hope that you did a good enough job with your customers that maybe hopefully they told somebody else, right?
yeah,
So social media is that storefront, is your yellow pages, is your TV, is your
Hmm.
radio ads, and best of all, it's for free right now. And so what I told this client was like, and I would do this. so like as Jacob and as your other guys are working, I would you, Rick, record them. Like you should be the documenter. You should be recording them and then literally post on social media and describe what project they're working on and how you feel about the quality of the work that you're doing. Like you are probably they're the doers, you should be the documenters and the storyteller. That's the role that I would take. And by merely doing it, you're going to get so proficient at it. Like my client raised it, like his business, it's not directly correlated, but his business increased 50%
Hmm.
because he decided to tell his story more and
Hmm.
be obnoxious about it too. Like take a picture, write a long caption about it. Take your time and just like take a couple of pictures and then just like do a carousel. Take a couple of pictures and a couple of 5-second videos and then make a reel about it. Like that should be your next thing is to get better at storytelling.
Yeah.
Like let Jacob do the work. Let is it Michael you said?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike,
let Michael do the work. Like literally document everything. Take selfies with the customers that buy slabs, and then tag them. Say, hey, what's your social media? And then you'll be like, the nice older gentleman that's like proficient on social. You know what I mean? Like it will open up a whole new part of your brain that you didn't know that existed because you've been using 99% of your brain to solve other problems. And so I was literally just talking to a dad after I dropped off my kids at school today. I'm like, I was like, I never want to be the type of person that says, I hate this, I hate that, I hate that. Like, so the thing that you hate the most is actually the thing that you actually should be running towards. It's the next unlock in your development as an entrepreneur. You've never
Huh.
been a storyteller. You've been a doer and an executor and a builder. And so potentially this next phase of development is about storytelling. And I would like lean back and tell this story about how you've been growing, how you grew your past business, and how you're doing this one different. What I don't see on your social is
Hmm.
like how you're essentially a sustainable business, how you're net zero, how you're like that's exciting.
Hmm.
cool.
So okay, so that is one thing, right? That's one thing. And if you want, I can
And
like write I can write
what?
something.
Sure, but which social media are you talking about? Like
Instagram
Facebook
and
and
Facebook.
yeah.
Instagram and your personal Facebook page,
Okay.
Okay.
right? Like while everybody's squabbling about the election and squabbling about dumb things, you're gonna be this like beacon of hope and light about this guy who's in his second career building the life and business of his dream with his kid right next to him. People are going to be like, "Oh my god. I Rick, take my money. Rick, take my money. Take it." Do you see
Okay.
do you see my mindset? What's my
Yeah, I
mindset?
do.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
what is my mindset tell you about a marketing strategy? What does that tell you? I'm just curious.
Well, uh, it, it tells me that um, I mean that's what I like to do anyway, but I just don't like to do it with those tools. I
Yeah.
mean, what I do is I go down to the coffee shop where my nephews have a coffee shop about uh, 300 yards away from here, and we did all the work in it. I just
Yeah.
go down and sit there, and people come in and they rub on the countertop
And you
and
shoot the shit with them. You shoot the shit with them.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
Imagine doing that. Imagine doing that at scale. So, okay, so this is a great example. This is a really, really great example. You doing that is the equivalent of using sandpaper. You doing that on social media is like having an overhead planer. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
which one's more efficient? Which one's going to have a bigger impact?
That's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
So essentially you can air dry slabs or you can stick them in a kiln, right? So
Right.
okay. So how you get more lumber sales is by building a community of woodworkers around you.
Yeah, that's true.
Invite them once a month to a hangout at your place when you're unloading the kiln. Have some beer, have some snacks, and then you have people come and you talk about projects and you network, and then everybody that buys, they get on a list and they can either pre-buy what comes out of the kiln or they get a discount when the day of, and then you just keep in touch and you build the biggest community of woodworkers and
Hmm.
contractors and developers around you, and that's how you do it. Build a
Cool.
community, build an email list, build a WhatsApp group, build a Facebook chat group, and get everybody that's a woodworker on there. And you know how you get them is by using Instagram and your personal Facebook page. That's how you do it.
Personal Facebook page or business?
What did I say?
Personal.
Exactly.
Okay.
The people on this podcast know that I'm a big proponent of personal Facebook page. You continue using your business Facebook page, but your personal Facebook page is how you're going to print money.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
see, that's really great
Is
to
that
know.
is that all helpful for you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Very.
that's very helpful.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, this is a great podcast, a great story. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
I love talking to folks like yourself. It's really cool.
Yeah. And then next time, or when you have some time, I think for you, doing shop tours, virtual shop tours, is a
That would
really
that
good
would
thing.
be very,
And we'd
very
be glad to be your first guinea pigs for that.
I would love that. I would love that. Absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay. Good.
Let's do that next time. All right. I will yeah, tell everybody your website and your socials so that they can follow your work.
Okay. So website is dendrotsm.com.
Yep.
And
Cool.
our Instagram is Dendro Dendro Technology.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rick and Jacob, for
Hey,
your time.
yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right. Take
Adios.
care.